Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Friday, December 27th, 2019. Hopefully everyone had a nice, good Christmas break, Hanukkah. Now Kwanzaa's in progress as well. Yeah, so I had a nice time. Invited to some dinner. Really good. Good hospitality. Had some nice little great discussions. All in good faith. It's all been very positive, I have to say. Yeah, actually I was gonna try to do an episode on something earlier. However, I fell asleep. That grogginess, of the holidays and all that. But it's cool. This is how it goes. So I'm just going to be a little bit mellowed right now, so I'm not going to get too jumpy. Have my moments like everybody else. And I'm just in my camper in the heart of downtown. Pretty cool. So, this came out actually Christmas Day. Originally was on Lou Rockwell, and LouRockwell.com originally, and this one was republished by FreedomBunker.com. I'll be mainly just talking about this one subject today, and I'll have a few others in the future, of course. And this was written by Dr. Walter Williams. Check him out. Very articulate man, very intelligent. And it says here, Virginia's Second Amendment attack. Came out Christmas Day, believe it or not. It says here, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam apologized for his medical school blackface stunt, but he will have much more to apologize for if he signs into law that attacks Virginia citizens' Second Amendment rights. The measure is Senate Bill 16, which will ban, quote, assault, unquote, firearms and certain foreign magazines. Since Democrats have seized control of Virginia's General Assembly, they are likely to push hard for strict gun control laws. Those laws will have zero impact on Virginia's criminals and have heavy impact on Virginia's law-abiding citizens who own or intend to own semi-automatic weapons for hunting or their protection. As a friend once explained to me, I carry a gun because I can't carry a cop. I'm proud of my fellow Virginians' response to the attack on their Second Amendment rights. Firearm owners in the state have joined with sheriffs to form Second Amendment sanctuary counties. That means local authorities will be required to protect Second Amendment rights in the face of any attempt by Virginia's General Assembly to abrogate those rights. 86 counties, over 90%, in the Virginia Commonwealth have adopted Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions. Spotsylvania County's Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to approve a resolution declaring that county police will not enforce state-level gun laws that violate Second Amendment rights. Sheriff Chad Cubbage said, "Be it known that the Page Sheriff hereby declares Page County, Virginia, as a Second Amendment sanctuary, and that Page County Sheriff hereby declares its intent to oppose any infringement on the law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms." Culpeper County Sheriff John Jenkins made a vow during a Board of Supervisors meeting where the board unanimously agreed to declare the county a Second Amendment constitutional county, to properly screen and deputize thousands of our law-abiding citizens to protect their constitutional right to own firearms. In an attempt to appease citizens' resistance, Northam suggested that there would be a ban on only sales of semi-automatic rifles. He would allow gun owners to keep their current AR-15s and similar rifles as long as they registered them. Yeah, can you see that? Right of privacy. Yeah, he's anti-right of privacy, all right? So, Otherwise, they must surrender their rifles. I urge Virginians not to fall for the registration trick. Knowing who owns what weapons is the first step to confiscation. Governor Northam further warned, if we have constitutional laws on the books and law enforcement officers are not enforcing those laws on the books, then there are going to be consequences. But I'll cross that bridge, and when we get to it. Ooh, how manly is that? Well, right there, my friends. He just breached his oath of office. I talked about that on my past show, which is Virginia lawmakers threaten Second Amendment sanctuaries with National Guard. All right, so check that show out, and I explained everything about it, especially on Virginia laws. So right there, he calls it constitutional law. He just lied to himself. Did he believe his own hype Did he believe his own hype? Good grief, the one-man army and his little minions of psychic voivods, you know? So, all right, well, I'm going to continue on here. In an attempt to appease citizens of resistance, right here. Let me see. Consequences, but I'll cross that bridge. Some Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill say that local police who do not enforce gun control laws should face prosecution and even threats of the use of the National Guard. Virginians must heed words and capture the spirit of those two most distinguished citizens, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, who wrote the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions. These resolutions refer to the federal government, but are just as applicable to state governments in principle. They say, resolve that the several states composing the United States of America are not united on the principle of unlimited submission to their general government, and whensoever the general government assumes undelegated powers is an act of our unauthoritative, void, and no of force. And as he's right. All you gotta do is read that, folks. Very good stuff. Too many Americans view the Second Amendment as granting Americans the right to own firearms to go hunting and for self-protection. But the framers of our Constitution had no such intent in mind. James Madison in Philadelphia Papers number 46 wrote that the Constitution preserves the advantage of being armed, which the Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, where the governments are afraid to trust the people with arms. Thomas Jefferson wrote, what country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. Similar quotations about our founders' desire for Americans to be armed against the possible of abuse of government can be found here. And I got it right here in front of me. Great quotes. I will read them along the way. So, hey, my friends, the past is today's greatest teacher. Share this with anyone that supports Moms Demand Action, March for Our Lives, Enough's Enough, and public safety and all this common sense gun law, common sense gun control hacks out there. If they get offended, who cares? Tell them to go back to their safe space. So, what's interesting here, quoting about it, this one here came from his stuff is right here with the quotes on WalterWilliams.com, of course, from that link. So I'm just going to use that one page. You can see it for yourselves. And it says here, right to keep and bear arms. And we can start off with this. The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be allow the subject races to possess arms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so. Adolf Hitler's Secret Conversation 403, which came out, was translated by Cameron and R.H. Stevens in 1961. That's just an example, folks. We'll just keep on going here. What the framers say about our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. If raised whether they subdue a nation of freemen, who knows how to prize liberty, and who have arms in their hands. This is Delegate Sedgwick during the Massachusetts Convention, rhetorically asking if an oppressive standing army could prevail. John Eliot, editorial, debates in the several state conventions on, let's go here, the adoption of the federal Constitution. Here's another one here. As civil rules not having their duty to the people before them, may attempt to tyrannize, and as a military forces which must be occasionally raised to defend our country, might pervert their power to injury of our fellow citizens. The people are confirmed by the article in their right to keep and bear arms. Tench Coates, in remarks of the first part of the amendments to the federal Constitution, under the Pisodium, a Pennsylvanian, in the Philadelphia Federal Gazette. That's in June 18, 1789. Yeah, so let's kick back, enjoy this a little bit. The prohibition is general. No clause in the Constitution could, by any rule of construction, be conceived to give Congress power to disarm the people. Such flagitious attempt can only be made under some general pretense by the state legislator. But if any blind pursuit or ordinate power either should attempt it, this amendment may be appealed as a restraint on both. William Rawle, Review of the Constitution, 125 to 126. I ask, sir, what is a militia? It's the whole people except for a few public officials. George Mason, in Debates of Virginia Convention on Ratification of the Constitution. Whereas civil rulers, not having their duty to the people duly before them, may attempt to tyrannize, and as military forces, which must be occasionally raised to defend their country, might pervert their power to the injury of their fellow citizens. The people are confirmed by the article on their rights to keep and bear their private arms. And I said same thing right there. Yep. Okay, yeah, very similar. It's the same thing when you say about the First Amendment and all that. Okay. Sorry, it looks like there's a little bit of repeat. And it says here, the best we can hope for concerning the people at large is that they be properly armed. Alexander Hamilton, The Fellows Papers. Okay, so it says here, if a representative of the people betray their constituents, there is then no recourse left but the exertion of that original of self-defense which is paramount to all positive forms of government, and which is against the usurpations of national rulers, may be exerted with infinitely better prospect of success than against those of the rulers of an individual state in a single state. If persons entrusted with supreme power become usurpers, the different parcels, subdivisions, or districts of which it consists, having no district government in each, can take no regular measures for defense. Citizens must rush tumultuously to arms without concert, without system, without resource, except in their courage and despair. Fellows Papers, number 28. It's good to know these things, my friends. So, And even Phillips Papers 29 says the same thing about arms. And right down here, that said, the Constitution shall never be construed to authorize Congress to infringe the just liberty of the press or the rights of conscience, or to prevent people in the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. Samuel Adams. That's during the Massachusetts Commonwealth of Massachusetts debate. The Constitution preserves the advantage of being armed, which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, whereas the government are afraid to trust the people with arms. James Madison, Phillips Papers 46. Another one here. To suppose arms in the hands of citizens to be used at individual discretion, except in private self-defense or by partial orders of towns, counties, or districts of a state, is to demolish every constitution and lay the laws prostrate, so that liberty can be enjoyed by no man. It is a dissolution of the government. The fundamental law of the militia is that to be created, directed, and commanded by laws, and ever for the support of the laws. John Adams. Defense of the Constitution of the United States. Says here, by a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every kingdom in Europe. The Supreme Court in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any band of regular troops that can be, on any pretense, raised in the United States. A military force at the command of Congress can execute no laws but such people perceive to be just and constitutional, for they will possess the power, and jealously will instantly inspire the inclination to resist the execution of a law which appears to them unjust and oppressive. Noah Webster, which is from the examination of leading principles of the Federal Constitution. Hopefully. Okay. I'm just making sure it's not the same quote here. Who are in the militia? Are they not ourselves? It is feared then that we shall turn our arms each man against his bosom. Congress have no power to summon the militia. Their swords and every other terrible implement of the soldier are the bright right of an American. The unlimited power of the sword is not in the hands of either the federal or state governments, but where I trust in God, it will ever remain in the hands of the people. Tench Cox, Philadelphia Gazette, February 20th, 1788. Just make sure people like Gary Farmer Jr., senator from Florida, in the state level, knows about this. I'll have to send him this quote, by the way. Be very interesting. And ban all firearms now. All assault weapons now, excuse me. Whereas to preserve liberty is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young how to use them, nor does it follow from this all promiscuously must get into actual service on every occasion. The mind that aims at a secret militia must be influenced and by a truly anti-republican principle. And when we see many men disposed to practice upon it, whenever they can prevail, no wonder true Republicans are for carefully guarding against it. Richard Henry Lee. What country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that there are people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. Thomas Jefferson to William Stephen Smith. No free man will ever be debarred the use of arms. Thomas Jefferson, Proposal of Virginia Constitution. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia composed of a body of people trained to arms is at the best, most natural defense of a free country. James Madison. What, sir, is the use of militia is to prevent the establishment of a standing army, the bane of liberty. Whenever government means to invade the rights and liberties of the people, they always attempt to destroy the militia in order to raise any army upon their ruins. Representative Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts. To disarm the people, that was the best and most effectual way to enslave them. George Mason. But of circumstances at any time to oblige the government to form an army of any magnitude, that army can never be formidable to the liberties of the people, while there is a large body of citizens, little if at all inferior to them in discipline and use of arms, who stand ready to defend their rights. Alexander Hamilton, speaking in Standing Armies in Philadelphia 49. Or are we at last brought to such humiliating and debasing degradation that we cannot be trusted with arms for our defense? Where is the difference between having our arms in possession and under our direction, and having them under the management of Congress? If our defense to be the real object of having those arms, in whose hands can they be trusted with more propriety or equal safety to us as in our own hands? Patrick Henry. Here's another one from him. The great object is that every man be armed. Everyone who is able may have a gun. Patrick Henry again. Here's another one from Patrick Henry. Oh, sir, we should have times, indeed, to punish tyrants, if it were only sufficient to assemble the people. Your arms wherewith you could defend yourselves are gone. The people are not to be disarmed of their weapons. They are left in full possession of them. Zachariah Johnson, talking about the Virginia, right from the Virginia Convention, delegate. It says here, certainly one of the chief guarantees of freedom under any government, no matter how popular and respected, is the right of citizens to keep and bear arms. The right of citizens to bear arms is just one guarantee against arbitrary government, one more safeguard against the tyranny which now appears remote in America, but which historically has proven to be always possible. And this is by Hubert H. Humphrey, Senior Vice President, of course. And then, of course, we just go on down here. The militia is a natural defense of a free country against sudden foreign invasions, domestic insurrections, and domestic usurpation of powers by rulers. The right of citizens to keep and bear arms has justly been considered as the palladium of liberties of the Republic, since it offers a strong moral check against the usurpation and arbitrary power of rulers, and will generally enable the people to resist and triumph over them. That's the Joseph Story. More attractive to America, the possession of arms is a distinction between a free man and a slave, it being the ultimate means by which freedom was to be preserved. James Berg. And there's another one here. The right to bear arms is general. It may be supposed from phraseology of this provision that the right to keep and bear arms was only guaranteed to the militia, but this would be an interpretation not warranted by the intent. The militia has been explained elsewhere, consist of those persons who, under law, are reliable to the performance of military duty, and are officered and enrolled for service when called upon. If the right were limited to those controlled, the purpose of the guaranteed might be defeated altogether by the action or the neglect to act of the government it was meant to hold in check. The meaning of the provision undoubtedly is that the people from whom the militia must be taken, and shall have the right to keep and bear arms. And they need no permission or regulation of law for the purpose, but this enables the government to have a well-regulated militia, for to bear arms implies something more than mere keeping. It implies the learning to handle and use them in a way that what makes those who keep them ready for their efficient use. In other words, it implies the right to meet for voluntary discipline in arms, observing and so doing the laws of public order. This is Thomas M. Cooley, who did the General Principles of Constitutional Law. That was in 1898. So, hey, check these folks out. And that said, Constitution be never construed to authorize Congress to prevent people of the United States who are peaceful citizens from keeping their own arms. That's Samuel Adams. The ultimate authority resides in the people alone. The advantage of being armed which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation forms a barrier against the enterprise of ambition more surmountable than any kingdoms of Europe are afraid to trust people with arms. That's James Madison. The people are not to be disarmed of their weapons. They are left in full possession of them. Zachariah Johnson. Arms discourage and keep the invader and plunderer in awe and preserve the order in the world as well as property. Horrid mischief would ensue were the law abiding deprived of the use of them. Thomas Paine. The right of citizens to keep and bear arms has justly been considered as a palladium of the liberties of a republic, that it offers strong moral check against the usurpation arbitrary of rulers, and will generally, even if these are successful in the first instance, enable the people to resist and triumph over them. Joseph Story. Let them candidly tell them, where and when did freedom exist? When the sword and the purse were given up from the people. Unless a miracle in human affairs interposed, no nation ever retained its liberty after lost the sword and the purse. The great object is that every man be armed. Everyone who is able may have a gun. Patrick Henry. The foundation of everything is that the people will form an equal representative government, that the people will be universally armed. People that legislate for themselves ought to be in the habit of protecting themselves. Joel Barlow. In the Commonplace Book, 1776, Thomas Jefferson cites the words of Caesar Borsaria from his seminal work on crimes and punishment. This is what it says. This is what it says here. Laws that forbid the carrying of arms disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather than to encourage than to prevent homicides. For an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than a man armed. Well, my friends, the past is today's greatest teacher. And this is why you always gotta look at all the clowns that scream for government to protect them, which they're not obligated to. Those are the facts. Even the brothers in Virginia and sisters in Virginia, the old Dominion states, got their Bill of Rights. I'll read it one more time. Article 1, Section 1 of that enactment called Equality and Rights of Men. That all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherited rights, of which When they enter into a state of society, they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. So, to Governor Northam and all the cockroaches in this political position, your actions are completely invalid. No ends, ifs, or buts. No exceptions. Can't handle it? Leave. Because they're contaminating space. That's to every single elected servant within these United States, including regardless of federal, state, or local. Plain and simple. And to all those resolutions, sanctuary resolutions, and so forth, it's on paper, has to be implemented by every single one of us, regardless of where we're at. Like in Virginia, the folks may have to make sure you have those obligations on honoring it. Like I did a show about the civil rights, affirming civil rights. I call it natural rights in Broward County. Everyone in that county has an obligation to honor it, implement it. No exceptions. And that will be it. Like everyone for listening, plus feel free to download and share us with your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you may have something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please share your correspondence with Decorum. I will add this footnote to my Spreaker page. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.